I think this show's going to need more budget going forward.
Yeah, I think that they realized that as well.
Well, because, like, I mean, you think that there's some crazy effects happening now?
Yeah.
Like, as this series progresses, you haven't even gotten to it yet, like, it gets bonkers.
Yeah.
And on a level that Game of Thrones never goes to, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, it's going to be a lot.
Welcome, friends, to episode 209 of the Ink to Film podcast, where we read the book and then see the movie. I'm James.
And I'm Luke.
And this week we discuss Rafe Judkins' 2021 series, The Wheel of Time. We're in person again. We're sitting side by side.
Yeah.
There's a good vibe in the room right now.
Yep.
But we're talking The Wheel of Time, and this episode is on the first 4 episodes of the show.
Right.
Very excited to talk about it. We've been hanging out with each other the last week and haven't been able to say a word about it. So this is it. The floodgates are about to open.
Yeah.
We do want you to go check out our book episodes if you haven't already. We do a lot to cover Robert Jordan's vision of the story, and now we're going to jump into Rafe Judkins and so many other people who worked on this.
Yeah, and the show so far has gotten pretty, I would say in most ways, past where the book is. So if you've seen the first 4 episodes of the show, the books won't spoil anything for you. And then, we will get into spoilers here in a minute for the show, but I think we're going to talk generally first. But before we get to that, I did want to say congratulations to my brother. He just got married. I am here in Florida for his wedding. This Wheel of Time show is something I know he's excited about. It's one of his favorite book series, and he was mentioning how he was looking forward to this one. So congrats, Ben. You had a great ceremony. It was beautiful. And,
yeah, it was amazing. Congrats.
Yeah. So thanks for that little indulgence there. But this show, I have so many thoughts and feelings. We watched the last 2 episodes together
In silence.
Last night.
Pure silence.
Pure silence. We were like, we cannot speak of this. It's very difficult to do. We've never done that before.
Actually, as soon as we finished the 4th episode, Luke looked at me and said, I have no thoughts.
Zero thoughts at all. It's so funny. Like, I think that works out well for us that we don't watch stuff together. But normally, we save it all for the podcast, and it was a little more difficult this time because of that. But man, I'm very curious to know what your thoughts are, because for me, like, if you didn't listen to the other episodes, I'll just briefly say, like, I've read almost all the books. I didn't read the last one, so I don't know exactly how it finishes, but I know a lot more about this series. Now, it was spread out over many years a long time ago, so it's not all fresh. But James has never read any of it, and he just started reading the book for the first time. So I think our perspectives on the show are going to be pretty different in that regard, right? You're a fresh book reader who hasn't even finished one book yet.
Yeah.
Whereas I have a lot of history with these characters and everything. So
yeah. I'm finding this interesting balance where I'm trying to decide if I'm going to be this book purist, keep everything faithful, kind of fan.
Well,
or
you'll be disappointed if you're that fan.
Right. But what I'm saying is, as it's going on, I'm like, am I reacting to these changes so harshly or so happily because it's so fresh for me, or because I haven't finished a book?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting to kind of think of it from that perspective, because I'm trying to, with it so fresh and with everything being I'm really enjoying the book, and now, spoiler, I'm enjoying the show. But some of the changes, there was a little bit of some getting used to at first, and we'll definitely talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like you just imprinted on the book for the first time, reading it for the first time, and I'm sure you developed ideas and images in your head, and then you're immediately having them challenged by the show.
Something about this time in particular, though, because we do that all the time. We do it
all the time, yeah.
Something about this time in particular seemed harder for me to deal with changes,
yeah.
But I'm happy to say that.
Why do you think that would be?
That's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to kind of articulate, but I'm trying to think that maybe because it's so fresh and I'm buying in so quickly, and it has this connection to Lord of the Rings, which I'm so passionate about. And maybe there's a lot wrapped up in that, and I want to see this exactly realized version. But at the same time, I'm happy that through 4 episodes, my idea of the show has been challenged, and I'm on the other side of 4 episodes, really happy with some of the changes in the way that the show's heading.
Yeah, maybe because Robert Jordan, he's really good at evoking character. I feel like all of these characters are really well realized, and I think the epic nature of the book gives him lots of room to explore their sort of inner thoughts and feelings and behaviors. And we spend a lot of time with them doing just lots of little things. And so because you spend so much time with the characters, I think you start to get affectionate for them. And it's interesting to me to hear that even through two chunks of the book, which 2/3 of it is what we've read, that you've already sort of developed that. Yeah. So for me, it's similar but different, right? So I'm very familiar with the series, read it for a long time, started way back in the middle school, and I have long held firm ideas of like what these characters are, what they look like to me, how they behave, how they speak, and coming into this adaptation for the last few years since it's been announced, I've been very aware that it's going to change. And knowing like I can't hold on to that, because if you're a fan of a book and you hold on to those like imagined versions of characters, you're so often going to be disappointed. You're setting yourself up to be disappointed. So I went in expecting changes. And I think I set myself up well to where like the differences in the way characters are, how they look, how they behave, how they speak, for the most part hasn't bothered me, with some exceptions. And then the plot changes are the thing that like case by case I have more issues with at times. More like certain changes I'm like, oh, that's smart. Other changes are head scratchers for me.
I mean, we could just start by saying like characters' foundational motivations are changed in a way, and like those were the things that I reacted to.
They're all
right
aged
away.
up.
Yeah.
Which changes things a little bit. Their relationships are changed because of that change. I mean, it's kind of spoilery for the first episode to get into a lot of this stuff, so we'll quickly get to that. But before we do, I just like general thoughts about what this show is. If you were talking to someone who knows nothing about Wheel of Time and you wanted to be really careful about it, how would you describe the show to them so far in a way to either sell them on it or tell them to stay away from it? What do you think?
Yeah. So just going through my thought process of this show is the first episode was rocky for me, a bit rocky, and in a way that I was scared that there was a potential that we wouldn't be getting further seasons. I know that, just to let everybody know, season 2 was greenlit during the production of season 1, so like that was already in the bag. But just in terms of reception, I was worried that people might have extreme reactions to it, and I was a little bit worried that it felt like another show trying to be the next big fantasy show.
Right.
And then it quickly...
Well, we could say it. Game of Thrones, yes. Right? Like every reviewer in the world has been comparing it to Game of Thrones. I think they knew that going in. I think the shadow of Game of Thrones is on this series. At times they're trying to appeal to Game of Thrones fans. And we can talk about the relative success of that. I absolutely agree. I think Game of Thrones has weighed heavily on their minds as they made this show.
But I think they've done a good job of distinguishing themselves from Game of Thrones and
as
a lot
of
other fantasy.
The books are very different.
Right. In a lot of ways, though. Like tonally, and like in terms of some of the, especially like a lot of the costuming, the world overall, they're trying to do a lot to not look like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. And I think it's working so far for me, but I wasn't quite expecting it. And I think that's I think when you think of like swords and horses and cloaks and magic, you're going to think of a certain type of fantasy, and you're going to think medieval, you're going to think this and that. And like they've done a good job of kind of still having a lot of that, but also like being wholly its own in a way.
Yeah.
But to get back to like how I felt about the show overall, rocky start. Like I said, a lot of the foundational things I was, like you said, kind of scratching my head at. I didn't understand the changes. Felt like it was going very quickly, which is another thing. The pacing feels like it's at sometimes flying by, and other times it kind of gets to slow down and live in the pace that I would like to see a 14-book series sort of live at. Overall, the performances I'm loving. The amount of money that I can tell they spent on the show, like in terms of the effects and a lot of the set design and giant sprawling villages and sets that they've created. And as the episodes go on, I felt stronger and stronger. And up through episode 4, when I finished episode 4, I was like, okay, I trust them, and I think they can pull this off. I think they're going to be able to create a really fun, interesting fantasy show that a lot of people are going to tune into. And I've actually heard that it's like the most viewed series premiere on Amazon Prime and stuff. So
that's good news.
It's a big deal, and I think it'll be cool to follow along. It's getting a season 2 at the very least, and see the reception going forward. In terms of what I've seen so far, generally people are enjoying it, and they agree that sort of along the way it gets stronger and stronger. I think it really finds its footing around episode 4.
It may even be that each episode gets better than the one previous as you go through the first 4. At least that's all we've seen. So I guess if I'm recommending it to someone, I would say stick through, I think, at least to episode 3. But maybe if you can, get all the way to 4 and see what you feel at that point. If you're still not liking anything, then maybe it's not going to be for you. But the first 1 or 2, especially the first one, it's very mixed. It might turn you off. You might think, I don't know, this is right. This is what I want. They had a lot to do in that first episode. It's interesting to me, you talked about how much money they spent on it. And I agree that you can tell that there was a lot of care in the sets and in the designs. But I don't know, there's something a little odd about the look of the show at times. Certain things it feels like they cut some corners, making things look not as real as they should. Like certain areas, certain sets felt maybe underdeveloped.
Yeah. I'm also granting a certain amount of leeway knowing that this is a season 1.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's what I'm kind of leading this to. And like same thing with like costuming. Like the costumes are pretty good. At times, certain characters' costumes looked a little out of place. Sometimes they'd look too clean. Like there'd be like weird choices. And all of this, I have to remind myself, this is a season 1. And it's a season 1 on a show that I think there was a lot of care in production and there's belief in the show, but I feel like they're not quite sure they have a hit on their hands. So there's a little bit of like, I don't know. And I'm hoping that once they realize that this is a hit or that people are really loving it, sounds like it's getting good reviews and good response, that I hope they're going to double down, because Amazon has the money, and I really hope that we're going to see this show mature and evolve into something truly great. Yeah. Right now, I don't think it's great, but it has a lot of potential. And it's starting to realize it the longer it goes on. So I'm really curious to see what happens in the back half of the season. Yeah. But yeah, like in I feel like you look back at like older TV, and this happened a lot. That pilot almost felt like a different show. Right. I'm not saying this does, but it has a bit of that, like, this is very pilot-y. They're trying to wow somebody to like sell them on the concept of the show. And then it has a bit of that feel. Yeah, getting back to the look of the show, like, again, there are certain shots where it looks good, other shots where it looks a bit janky at times, I guess is the best word I can use for it. The effects.
And you do feel like it improves over time, like the shots and the cinematography?
I think so. I think more than the look, I think the writing...
the dialogue,
and honestly, character work. Like, and I know that's tough because like early on you just don't have enough time. But they went, basically, I think they went for some big swings in the first episode. Sometimes it connected, and a lot of times it didn't. And they kind of whiffed, and that's tough. That's a tough place to start. Yeah, I guess overall, I do recommend it. Even if you're a diehard book fan and you're like, I don't know about the show, I think give it a few episodes before you make up your mind. At least 3 or 4. And then you can make up your mind if it's too different, if it's too frustrating to you as a book fan, maybe this won't be an adaptation you can get behind. But I also want to say, like, if you want to watch a really good Wheel of Time adaptation, I think this is going to be the only chance we get for at least a long time, because it's such a massive series. There's going to have to be a lot of condensing. And they are, in some ways, jumping ahead to books 2 and 3 here, which is something I had heard, and you can see like touches of things they're bringing in, and if you're really attached to the idea of like spending all this time with like Rand and Matt on the road, and we're gonna spend all this time with them, and like it's gonna be like 100, 200, 300 pages of the book, like you're not gonna get that in the show. They're gonna condense big sections of that where like certain things happen over and over again, and yeah, in the book it works great because you're learning the characters, you're getting to know them, and you're getting to live with them. But in the show, you just don't have time for that. Right. You're going to condense, you're going to speed it up, and you're going to jump past stuff quickly.
Another thing I would say for book purists, like this one's going to be tweaked in the way that it also becomes more of an ensemble. And I was reading that was a big choice of theirs, was to like, it's, the original book especially is very like Rand centric. And this story has it's given backstories to characters who didn't have tons of backstory and tried to really turn it into an ensemble piece.
Yeah.
And you can definitely feel that happening.
I wonder if that's a Game of Thrones effect, because like I clearly Robert Jordan made the choice of hyper focusing on Rand, and then over time, I think he knew, like, hey, I'm going to start having other characters become more central, start developing them. They're going to seem like side characters, and I'm going to bring them to the fore, and I'm going to give them a POV chapter here or there. And then before you know it, they're kind of central main characters. And I think he always kind of planned that to happen, but he wanted to trickle it in. And instead here, they dump it all in your lap. And I feel like I think famously, the Game of Thrones pilot does the same thing, and a lot of people are like, oh my god, it's too many characters. And so I think they looked at that and they're like, well, it worked for them, so we're going to do a similar kind of thing. We're going to dump a bunch of characters on people. And it has mixed success, right? And then you also dump like a big event, you dump a big world changing prophecies, and you get the idea that something truly epic is happening and important and mostly good, but, again, has some downsides. I do also want to go through each member of the cast and talk about their portrayals of each character. I think maybe that's going to be good to do early on. And then I know you have a bunch of background stuff and you want to talk about the filmmaker. So, again, I'm like brimming with stuff to talk about, but...
Yeah, let's do filmmaker first. Okay. Rafe Judkins, very interesting figure. American showrunner and television personality, best known for appearing as a contestant on the 11th season of Survivor.
Whoa!
Which took place in Guatemala.
I didn't know that.
How amazing is that?
Wow.
What a, interesting... you can really, dig into this guy as a person on Survivor.
He was a contestant?
Yes.
Maybe in like a bonus episode, we'll go watch some of that.
We might have to.
We might have Rafe Judkins on that Survivor.
So sometime after Survivor, he decided he wanted to work in TV and moved to LA and started working as a writer. And now he's had credits on shows such as My Own Worst Enemy, Chuck, and Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah,
I've seen like a little bit of some of those shows, but I wouldn't say I'm a fan of any of them. I know you watched a lot of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, right?
Yeah. And another show that gets much better with time, like it was started off very rough.
Okay.
And I think the people who stuck it out for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there's a good story in there. But it had to get past the fact that it was like network TV and they had to pump out 24 episodes, so that can be a lot for shows. And it was at a weird turning period where we're getting like shows like this, 8 episodes of Wheel of Time. Can you imagine the show is like a 24 episode network TV show? Like it would just going to get like a different kind of thing.
If I know that, like, in my mind, I want to believe that they could maintain the quality and that it's like, oh, we get to spend more time with the characters and all this stuff, but truthfully, it would feel stretched thin.
They start pushing in like every love triangle you can possibly imagine.
What's that line from Lord of the Rings? Like butter spread over too much bread. Yeah. Like that's always what happens in those kind of situations.
Yeah. So an interesting background, and like you said, I mean, like to watch that Survivor episode, to watch some of that season he was in must be an interesting exercise to see the mind of a filmmaker in a show, in an environment, survival environment. So,
I wonder how he did.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see going forward. And what a success story, like to be like, I'm going to go do this. And then to now be show running. He's a showrunner for Wheel of Time.
A lot of writers I know say this, and I've seen this in creatives in general, like everybody has a different path, and you try and tell someone how you did a thing. You can't tell it to them like a blueprint or whatever. It's like, someone said, like you're digging a mine or you're digging a tunnel. But the problem is you're blowing the tunnel up behind you because no one can go through the same way.
Right.
So yeah, you could tell somebody how you dug your tunnel, but like they're gonna have to dig their own tunnel and it's gonna be different.
They might find a pocket of your tunnel for a second or something.
Yeah,
advice,
or they might learn. Yeah, they might learn a method from you or something, but it's gonna be different. And yeah, so you can't be like, oh well, I'll just go be a contestant on the Survivor and then I'll be show running the next big fantasy series.
I have to assume there's like some filmmaking, just being around people who are filming a show. Like,
well, he had to have some background in film before.
Absolutely,
that, right?
Yeah. I would assume some sort of production background. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other person that I want to talk about who's important, especially like setting up this world and getting it set. Jutta Brieswitz, and she's a German cinematographer and television director. She directed the first 2 episodes of Wheel of Time here. And, we've talked a lot about like the director who comes in the first couple episodes is really setting the tone for a lot of things within the show. Like
it's interesting that I didn't like the first 2 as much.
Yeah.
Though.
Well, I mean, let me tell you a couple credits that Jutta's been involved in, and then you can kind of see why I think that she was involved, and whether you think that like everything.
It's a tough ask.
Exactly, setting something up like this is a huge ask, and then also like I think you will find that if you look at it it is a good looking show. I don't know that it's necessarily the look that everybody was expecting, but it is well shot, and it is like there are very cinematic scenes, and there is time, like we'll talk about it in the first episode, but I'm thinking even of like Egwene jumps into the river and it's like this extended thing. But it's like good. There are moments that you get to breathe and
there
have
are showcasing moments.
Yeah.
The show has a bit of a weird polish to it that I
can see that. And that's what I mean. Like
I'm
maybe
still warming to
a certain look that people weren't expecting, because it does kind of feel more modern than what I was expecting. It doesn't feel as like classically the colors are almost very saturated in the show.
Saturated colors. And again, things look too clean all the time. Like people's clothes look too clean.
I can see that. And that can also
often
be
look too clean
based off of like early, burning I'll get to this in a little bit as well, but they had $80 million to make the first 8 episodes. So $10 million an episode, which is a significant amount of money. Yeah. But you have to think that like, a lot of that money is being poured into like creating the sets that they're going to need and they're going to reuse. And, a lot of that kind of stuff, it's like initial build that has to be footed.
I wonder how much that first episode did. Because I just remember I just read reports of HBO canning a $30 million prequel Game of Thrones pilot.
Yeah.
Spent $30 million on this one episode.
I think the last season of Game of Thrones, most of the episodes in the last season were pushing like 15 to 20 million an episode.
That's it? Yeah. I thought there were more than that.
That's what I saw recently. I was going back to look. And certain episodes with a lot of CGI dragons are going to be probably more, and then other ones less.
And I'm just going to say it now. I think this show is going to need more budget going forward.
Yeah, I think that they realize that as well.
Well, because you think that there's some crazy effects happening now?
Yeah.
Like, as this series progresses, you haven't even gotten to it yet. Like, it gets bonkers.
Yeah.
And on a level that Game of Thrones never goes to, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, it's going to be a lot. And if they want it not looking real hokey, they're going to need to spend some money on it. They're going to need to give people time to work on it.
That's the thing, too. Game of Thrones set the bar really high.
Yeah, Game of Thrones, to me, always looked good. Like, that's what I was going to say. That's the thing. Good.
They knew how to spend their money, and HBO was willing to give them a certain amount. And I think, honestly, if Amazon gives them the blank check that I think that Jeff Bezos might for the show, it could get crazy. But the thing that
we got to get Bezos on board as a fan. That's the thing.
I think he is. I think he wanted. I think he saw. I mean, I don't know that he's a fan, but I think that he was looking for a huge fantasy show for Amazon, and he's like, we need it.
Okay. And because he's a big fan of The Expanse and like personally saved it, and like.
I have to assume he's invested in this enough to like care. But what I'm trying to say is, even if they get the blank check budget, they have to have enough time. And if they're not given enough time, then they're not going to be able to do it.
I don't know if this is the kind of show. I mean, they are probably going to try and put it out every year, aren't they? That's going to be tough.
I don't know that it's possible. So I'll just say that now. If they're going to try to...
I think that's what they're going to try and do, man. Yeah. I don't think they're going to want to do two-year shooting schedules. They might do like 18 months or 16 months or something, and they might push it.
Right.
But yeah, it's going to have to be a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be tough. But I mean, it can be done. We'll
see. I do want to circle back to what I was talking about, though. Jutta Brieswitz is the German cinematographer and television director from the first 2 episodes. She has worked on shows as a cinematographer and director such as The Wire, Weeds, True Blood, Orange is the New Black, House of Lies, Awkward, Jane the Virgin, Fresh Off the Boat, The 100, Jessica Jones, Fear the Walking Dead, This Is Us, Iron Fist, Black Sails, The Defenders, Altered Carbon, Westworld, Stranger Things, and now The Wheel of Time.
So, experience.
Right.
Some of those are great. Some of those aren't. I don't know if it's certain episodes. I'd have to look, Right. So, I mean, obviously very experienced in TV.
That lineup is like pretty untouchable. I think that like if you work, even the worst episode of Westworld, I think you're going to think looks incredible.
That's true.
So like you're in pretty good company.
Stranger Things is a great looking show.
Altered Carbon looks really good.
There's some stuff on there that looks really good. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So I think that like
we're talking about writing, we're talking about directing. There's some really good stuff in there. Yeah.
And she was a director on that episode of Westworld and a director on 2 episodes of Stranger Things. So there is a successful, well-seasoned director and cinematographer here that they asked to direct this.
One thing I wonder about that though, and I'm not saying this is true for them, but that's somebody who has a lot of experience directing TV, right? How do they feel about Wheel of Time?
Right.
Are they a big fan of Wheel of Time? Because ultimately, and I hope Rafe Judkins is able, because I know he is, right? And I'm hoping that he's able to maintain that for this show to succeed, that you have to remember the core fan base. And the core fan base is the book fan base. And you already are going to lose some people with the changes, but you can't lose them. You can't lose them all. You lose all the book fans, you're losing the show. The show's going to get canceled. So you got to keep that in mind, and the way you do that is you do justice to things, and when you make changes in a way that at least a good portion of the people are going to be able to get behind.
Yeah.
Were you able to find the details about the selling of the rights of Wheel of Time and the all the stuff that happened with Robert Jordan's widow?
Yeah, I actually did. So in 2000, NBC optioned the screen rights to Robert Jordan's fantasy novel series, The Wheel of Time, but did not ultimately proceed with the production. In 2004, Jordan sold the film, television, video game, and comic rights to the series to production company Red Eagle Entertainment.
Right.
In 2015, Red Eagle Entertainment paid for airtime to cable network FXX to air Winter Dragon, a 22-minute pilot for a potential The Wheel of Time series starring Billy Zane and Max Ryan that allowed Red Eagle to hold on to the rights to the project.
Yeah, I remember that was a big thing because when that came out, people saw it. It was aired at like 2 a.m. for its premiere.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear what was happening here.
Yeah, and apparently it was horseshit. I've never seen it.
We're gonna watch it.
We gotta watch it.
Yeah,
man.
if it's available.
That's gonna be a bonus. But then there was like lawsuits and shit after that, right? Because they had to try and get the rights back, but it was to maintain some clause about having to produce a pilot.
I think that it's clear that Harriet McDougal, who was the widow to Robert Jordan, was not happy with the way that they were handling it, and talked about it openly. And because of that, the company sued McDougal about the pilot.
I thought she sued them.
I think it may have been a mutual situation. I'm not really...
Countersuit or some shit? Wow.
So the lawsuit was settled. I couldn't really find the details of the settlement. I'm sure
often it's kind of secretive.
There might be details of ultimately who paid who or something like that, that kind of thing. Yeah, they held on to it for a long time. I think it's clear that they knew that there was something there. I mean, you're thinking in 2004 it sold. So what's relevant in 2004? What's just come out.
Oh, yeah, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings has just come out over the last 3 years. So they were like, okay, there's something here.
This is it. We got to hold this thing, but we can't make it.
Yeah, we don't have the... I mean, they probably couldn't get the funding to make it.
We don't have the capital. Yeah. We don't have the...
So people loved the Lord of the Rings, but I guarantee people looked at it and said, there's no fucking way that we could do that.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of time and money that they had to pour into that series to create it. I think other production companies looked at that and was like, that's a fucking headache. Let's make easy home runs instead.
Well, and one thing I will say for this one, you watch the opening credits. I think I saw Brandon Sanderson as a consulting producer, executive producer. I saw Harriet McDougal's name was listed there. So it's got the blessing of obviously not Robert Jordan because he's passed away, but which we talked about, by the way, in the last episode. If you don't know much about it, you can hear about it there. But yeah, this seems like it's got the blessing. Now, does that mean that they have any creative control? Probably not. I don't know. I don't know that you saw that in your notes or not, but at the very least, they've given it their blessing that this is an adaptation that they are allowing to happen and approve of. So hopefully that bodes well for it.
I mean, it bodes well to me. That makes me feel a lot safer. And you don't
want that shady shit happening with some BS pilot.
Right. That's just it's very clear that they just wanted it for the money at that point. They weren't passionate about the story.
No.
If you're releasing some bullshit.
Well, they're probably hoping to fucking ransom it, right? Yeah. We're gonna hold on to this shit, and if you want it back from us, pay us some crazy amount of money.
Yeah, I think that we should jump into the actual plot.
Yeah, we got to, man,
because we have a lot to talk about.
We got a lot to get there.
So the first episode is called Leavetaking, again directed by Yuta Brieswitz. Years ago, the male half of the One Power became corrupted, driving male channelers insane, and Louis Theron Telamon, a channeler known as the Dragon, tore the world apart in his madness. Moiraine is an Aes Sedai who can channel an elemental force called the One Power. Some Aes Sedai wish to eliminate male channelers, but Moiraine and her warder, Lan Mandragoran, search for the dragon's reincarnation to defeat the Dark One. Their search leads them to Emond's Field and 4 possible candidates, villagers Randall Thor, Perrin Aybara, Matt Cawthon, and Egwene Alvear, whom they plan to take to the White Tower, the Aes Sedai seat of power. Rand, who is besotted with Egwene, is disappointed that she intends to become the next Wisdom, a village leader and healer who cannot wed. Trollocs, beast following the Dark One, ambush Emond's Field, and Nynaeve Almira, the current Wisdom, is taken, and Perrin accidentally kills his wife, Lila. Moiraine battles the Trollocs with the One Power and is injured. Rand, Perrin, Matt, and Egwene reluctantly join Moiraine and Lan on their journey back to the White Tower to keep the Trollocs away from Emond's Field.
Ah, yes. The first time James has gotten to read a summary for some Wheel of Time shit, and you get to try and pronounce 15, 16, 17 different names in a row.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I actually saw something online that Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time book series has 2,782 named characters.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a lot of fun to read.
Yeah. And man, speaking of just pronunciations real quick, Lawn is apparently how they pronounce it in the audiobook. So I was like, I guess I got to change it to Lawn. I've always said Lan, and then sure as hell they're calling him Lan in the show. So I'm going back to Lan. Yeah, I don't know, man. I can't follow how we're supposed to pronounce a lot of these names. I also say Egwene sometimes, but I know it's Egwene. I'm going to try.
Right.
We'll assume that the pronunciation in the show is now the new canonical version. So we'll make an attempt. All right, man. So episode 1, first impressions. I'm sitting down to watch it, overcome with all this excitement, right? Like, it's been years. I've been just like, oh, I'm going to watch this thing. And, it's such a mixed bag. It's like, I'm excited to see, but then, like, I don't know, the opening scene doesn't look super great with the effects.
Well, the opening scene being, like, Moiraine getting, like, ready with the voiceover.
Oh, no, that looked fine. I meant the all of the red Aes Sedai coming and getting the guy, and there's like kind of a magic sequence that just doesn't look very good in my opinion. And that's the kind of stuff that, like, I'm still like mixed on the way they're showing the weaves working.
Really?
But I would say it looked better in the 4th episode in particular. I started to see like maybe why they're making certain choices. Mm-hmm. And it has some of the episode 4 we'll get to. It has some of the best effects. But here early on, I was still kind of mixed. Like, book purists will tell you, like, this is not really how it's described. Like, this is not how it looks in the books when they're doing these weaves. But I think they're really leaning into the idea of a weave, and so they make things very like a lot of strands. But it's also kind of misty, and it gets very swirly, and I don't know. I can see people hating it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of mixed on it. And I would say that if you're also mixed on it, give it a chance. That's what I'm trying to do. And I think it's starting to make more sense and I'm starting to come together a little bit more. And they do other things with the magic. And the magic's starting to come alive. And this is the thing, like, this is not a light magic show like a Game of Thrones. This is a heavy magic show. And the magic isn't going anywhere. And it's just going to get bigger and grander and crazier. And if you want to make it work, you have to make sure it looks good. And that's the thing I'm kind of skeptical about, but I'm hoping they can pull off. Yeah. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want it to look pretty good.
Right.
If it looks pretty good, I'll be happy.
So one of the things that I thought of immediately with the first episode, and you're talking about the effects and that sort of thing, is... and this isn't something that I disliked. It was something that and I think I was willing to give it more leeway than I gave this, is Shadow and Bone, which we covered.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that the effects and the magic looked in that show were just good enough, I think. And there were times that they looked great. There were times it didn't look great.
That's a great comparison as far as like how the show looks, too.
Yeah. I was thinking about that a lot.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, if this is like the modern... cheapest way to make a fantasy show, but as time went on, like the weaving
most economical way,
right? Economical, yeah. The way that they can actually make it feasible to do this kind of stuff, and the weaving at first, and there's some stuff that Moiraine does with where she's throwing all these chunks of the inn and stuff, which obviously we're in spoilers. We've read we're getting into these episodes, we're going to spoil each episode. So that stuff was like, ooh, and some of the times you look at the Trollocs and they look kind of weird, but overall, like, I'm giving it leeway with the caveat that it needs to get better as time goes on.
Yeah, all right. Well, you just mentioned the Trollocs. I think we got to talk about them. Okay, so the Trollocs, they are, I think, mostly good. They look pretty scary.
Well, and I'm happy to report that they did a lot of practical augmentation. So it's like...
Right. And I could tell at times, like, that's a real thing. There are other times where you can tell fully CGI.
Right.
And it depends on how you feel about that. I'm not someone who's completely against that. You don't want to only have that. You want it to be a mix. I like that they are bigger than orcs. And they differentiate themselves from orcs pretty well, which I think is a good thing to do here.
For sure.
There was a weird thing, especially in this first episode, where it felt like they made them almost like hyper fast.
They were pretty fast.
In kind of a weird way. Like, it almost felt unreal how quickly they were moving. And I get that they're right. I think they're trying to make them scary.
Right.
But because they moved so quickly through the environment, I think sometimes it really highlighted that
It was fake.
it was fake.
Yeah.
And so that sometimes, again, it's a mixed bag. I can see what they're going for, but the execution just wasn't quite there.
Yeah. And I do, like I said, I think that this is an opportunity for us to like give them a little bit of slack here, knowing that it's going to get better. And it has to, because if it still looks like this in season 5 or something like that, people are going to check out. I don't think it will. Yeah, and I don't either. So let's talk more about like characters.
Yeah, we got to run down. We can't spend too much time on them, but let's hit each major one maybe here quickly, and we can touch a little bit on their further portrayals in later episodes too.
All right, let's start with Rand. How did you feel about Yosha Stradowski's
I think the guy looks a little bit like Anakin Skywalker in the prequels.
I felt the exact same way. It's funny that you say that, because when I looked at him, something about the way his like resting face looks like an Anakin to me.
Yeah, which is kind of a red flag for me, but I'm not gonna blame him too much. That's just how he looks. He's okay. I think the potential's there for him to do something cool with the character. That's a character that has a massive arc throughout the series, goes some really interesting places. I don't think he's having to do any of the like really difficult stuff that he's going to have to do with the character over time. So I'm really curious to see how he handles it. I think he looks like a young guy who's probably he's fully capable. I'm not saying he seems like he's still learning, but I think there's room to grow even as an actor. Yeah. And I think he's going to have to really bring this role to life as he progresses, but there's nothing that makes me think he can't.
Yeah, it reminds me of, and of course, like the comparison's always going to be there, but it reminds me of a Kit Harington having to play a Jon Snow.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, like you look at early Kit Harington or early Richard Madden from Game of Thrones, like early on, I remember when he first showed up, I was like, is this guy going to be Robb Stark? Like, I don't know.
Right.
But I think he does a great Robb Stark eventually. So again, you have room to grow into the role, and I think there's nothing about him that says he won't be able to. He does he looks like a male model.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's always kind of an odd look for me. Mm-hmm. But again, that's not a deal breaker. Mm-hmm. But there are sometimes people who are like, they look too perfect. Mm-hmm. For a certain role.
We'll scar him up, scrub some dirt in his face and stuff, and get him in the series a little more. I think he'll get there. Yeah. So let's move to Madeline Madden, who plays Egwene Elvira.
Yeah, okay, so Egwene, I like her a lot, actually. I'm a big fan of her portrayal. She has had some moments where she's gotten to really... in fact, some of the early stuff in these early episodes with her, I think, is some of the best. There's definitely some changes going on here. Her and Rand have a sex scene, but they don't show a lot, but the implication is they have sex, which big change from the books.
Yeah, I think they've wanted to make it adult. That was another thing, is aging it up, making it adult.
You could feel the Game of Thrones look like breathing down their throat a little bit.
It wasn't as sort of explicit as a Game of Thrones scene.
No, they weren't like going for the tits and dragons crowd, right? But they wanted, I think, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And
they're leaving the door open.
They're leaving the door open for it. The place where you can really feel that, by the way, is the violence. I'm not on board yet with the way the violence is being handled, because sure, there's lots of violence in those books, entrails spilling out and steaming, and just a lot of gore, and it's also I feel like they tend to do CGI gore, so it doesn't always look as great, and then also it's hyper bloody in a show that doesn't feel like it should be, whereas Game of Thrones to me earned its hyper violence.
Yeah, that's another. I think that's another area it could grow into, though.
Yeah,
kind of nail down where they want to land with this kind of stuff.
That might be some leftovers of how the first book is almost a YA. We talked about it, and then of course it changes over time with the series grows, but the leftover YA-ness of the plot doesn't line up with how gory it gets at times. You know, and when the Trollocs attack, there's some fucking brutal stuff happening to these villagers. Yep. And if you just watch this show cold, you don't know anything, it kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yep.
And it might completely turn people off too, because the show doesn't telegraph that it's going to be like that. I don't know. You know, it doesn't feel that adult, whereas Game of Thrones feels that adult from the jump.
Yeah. So I liked Egwene, and I'm excited to see her get more to do. Yeah. Because I do think she has the chops. but we haven't seen a ton of her character so far. But
and that's going to be the case with a lot of the people we're going to talk about. So maybe we don't talk about every single person because some of them haven't had
a couple
ton
main people we need to talk about. Like we should
absolutely.
talk about Marcus Rutherford as Perrin Ibarra.
Yeah.
And this is probably the character that it's changed for me the most in my mind.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I haven't gotten you mentioned in the last episode, like, did I feel that Perrin and Rand were too similar? And maybe like as time goes on, he's more like this, but I felt like Perrin's he seemed way less capable than I was expecting in the show so far up to this point, and there was a very obvious change that we're going to get to. But how did you feel about just like his demeanor in general? I think I think Marcus Rutherford is doing a good job, and I can see that like there's an arc that's mounting here.
Yeah.
But so far, I haven't been in love with it.
Okay, so let's get the elephant out of the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They cast a black man to play Perrin. He's not.
That's not the change that I was talking about. Yeah,
I know.
Okay.
I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I don't think that is at all have anything to do with what we're going to talk about.
Right.
I think he is fully capable of playing Perrin,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to talk about the way the character is being written.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the way that they are writing this character is very different. I think they're trying to lean into a later challenge, a later arc that Perrin really struggles with, and they're trying to bring it to the fore with a big change. I think we just talked about here. We're in episode 1. So during the Trolloc attack, he accidentally kills his wife. You mentioned it in the plot, in the summary.
Right, and he didn't have in the book.
Wasn't married in the book, didn't accidentally kill his wife in the book because he wasn't married. Didn't accidentally kill anyone, as far as I know, during that first...
Which is a big change. Like, having that already built into the character is a massive change.
That is the biggest moment of just pulling away from the show that I had. And I went, oh, I don't know about this.
I was
because
really
it's
worried.
also a really textbook example of fridging a character.
Right. Well, not to mention, like, when his wife was introduced, I said out loud she's going to be killed for motivation reasons.
I thought that, and I hope to God, I was like, well, if you're introducing a wife for Perrin, I hope you do something interesting with her. There are characters later that this could kind of be,
mm-hmm.
and I thought maybe they were bringing that character way up to the beginning of the series, and I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to do something really different here. But man, and then I think I was like in the back of my head, I'm like, what if she dies here in a minute? Sure
I
enough,
kind of
man.
felt like it was coming. Honestly.
Okay, so if you're not familiar, we talk about fridging as if this is a term everybody knows, but not everybody does.
Right.
So fridging refers to a trope that was identified in like the late 90s by feminist writers who looked at, I think specifically Gail Simone I saw as the one who coined it. But looking at examples of women being either killed or raped or injured or captured solely to motivate a male character to action or to vengeance or to something.
Specifically from like a Green Lantern issue, right?
The term fridging specifically comes from a Green Lantern issue where they introduced this like girlfriend character or something only for him to like find her dead in a fridge in like the next like panel or something. Like it was like immediate. It was like one of the biggest, most egregious moments of this. But then when you start realizing, you start noticing in all these other pieces of media where they do this. Now there's a lot of like critical theory that has been written about this that we're not going to be able to get into here. But I think it's pretty textbook, right? Like you introduce a new character and clearly her sole purpose is to die here.
Mm-hmm.
Layla is her name. She doesn't really interact with any other characters.
No.
Because they're like, they mention her a few times, but that's it. And all she does is provide guilt for Perrin.
Right.
Who goes into these first 4 episodes completely just like weighed down with guilt. Like he has to be experiencing crazy PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like an unimaginable thing to have done
mm-hmm.
and to be dealing with. And that's a huge fucking ask for the actor to portray.
Well, not to mention the fact that like it's hard to buy him in any of the other scenes throughout the story that we've seen it to this point, not thinking of him having that guilt in his mind.
Yeah.
So like if he's supposed to be happy in a scene where they're all together and they're, on an adventure, he can't. He's not. And that was the beginning of the story, and now
it's weird too because he ends up being kind of mopey a lot,
right?
Understandably, but like
which isn't very interesting.
It's such a massive thing to handle. Like I don't know how you act that with all the other shit you got to do in these first 4 episodes.
Yeah.
I think it was a head scratcher. I alluded to that one before. I can suss out what they're doing because I know Perrin's arc going forward. And I don't think this is a major spoiler because you can see it being built here.
Right.
Is about violence. It's
right.
about
We've seen it as far in the book, you know. The whole like, will he throw the axe away? Will he not?
It's in the book and it's being threaded in, but it's introduced gradually. They fucking throw you in the deep end and hold you under for a little while in this show. Yeah. Right? They're like, look at him being violent. He's going to immediately regret it.
Yeah.
Will he be able to be violent again? Yeah. Will he want to? Now, I do think finally in episode 4, it actually kind of goes somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say that other thing is that it wasn't addressed for a bit, which was
not addressed at all.
Bizarre.
It's this dangling thread. I think it was a bad choice. I can kind of understand how someone suggested this, how it got okayed, how it got to the point of like, let's do it. But somebody at some point needed to step in and say, hey guys, is actually a bad idea.
They're just going to lean on the fact that they were trying to condense things and try to get to a certain point by a certain episode. And it was way too quick for audiences.
It was bad too, because it's the introduction of the character. We don't know Perrin yet.
We don't know him outside of the fact that he lost a wife.
So our first introduction of the character is the man who killed his own fucking wife in a fit of rage when he's fighting a Trolloc. And the way it was like set up was not even like that convincing.
Yeah.
It looked weird. Like it looked like he like did it on purpose almost, but then you could tell he didn't. But just like the way it was staged wasn't like super good.
I'm gonna mention this here because it's later in another episode. But when he has the dream and she's like fucking there, like talking to him, basically being haunted by Baal-Zaman or something potentially. Later, you're just like, oh god, this is not like, just to have that on the character going forward. It just feels like a different character.
It's tough. And my wife and I turned to each other and like I think we paused it and we had to like stop and go like, I can't believe that just happened, talk about it a little bit. She knows, I've told you, Perrin's maybe my favorite character in the entire series.
Right.
And so this was a rough one for me. This was like me going, oh, I don't know about this show anymore.
I agree. I mean, it was such a big departure so early on. Yeah. If it had been episode 2 or 3, I think it would even have been less surprising, but it was just too much.
I think there's going to be a lot of ground that's going to need to be made up, and there's going to be a lot of work that's going to need to happen for the character to bring him back to a semblance of the character that we all love from the series.
Yeah.
Because they have pushed him so far astray now.
And it's unfortunate too, because like Marcus Rutherford, like I think he's doing a good job with what he's been given. He's fighting an uphill battle.
It's the writing of the character. It is not his fault at all. I think he's doing okay. It's an impossible thing to ask him to portray. I don't know, man. That's really tough. And we're talking about throwing someone in the deep end too with the acting, right? Like, that's a huge challenge.
Right.
But we got to move on. But there's a lot of other mains that we do need to talk about here.
Matt, we got to talk about Matt Cawthon.
Okay, let's talk about Matt. I think he's great. He's one of my favorites in the show.
Yep.
I am really sad because I've heard that he is not going to be in season 2.
I was wondering if you heard that. Yeah,
I did.
Pretty big bummer. I think that he's been the great comedic relief. I think he's fit that archetype, and I actually think that even when he's doing the evil shit along the way with the dagger, I think I'm still seeing Matt more than I felt like I was in the book, because I feel like he's so drastically different. Because remember I mentioned like I really liked Matt at first. I felt like he was relatable, and then he became like just possessed and evil and weird and like not in any way believable to me as a character.
I don't know if evil's the right word.
He's trying to kill farmers and shit. Like they walk up and he's like, oh, I'm gonna lunge at him.
Yeah, a little bit possessed. I think that's a good term. And he's definitely like he's struggling. He's losing himself to the dagger.
Yeah.
But even before that, episode 1, they had this thing where he stole from one of the fellow villagers, and he sells it to Padan Fang, who gets introduced. Which, by the way, I thought he was great.
Yeah.
But we only seen a little bit of him. But he sells this trinket, but then he takes it and he's like being really nice to his sisters. Yep. And you can tell he's protecting them from like maybe neglectful / abusive parents,
which is a change in a weird one. But I guess they just wanted to give him motivation in a way. And give him
I think all this works for him because you're establishing him as a character who is not your like virtuous up and up guy.
He's a Robin Hood type figure.
I mean, but he's not stealing from the rich. He just steals from somebody.
I guess that's true. Steal from anyone.
Yeah, he's a guy who's like, you don't know about his methods, but ultimately it seems like his heart's in the right place, right? Or like if he has loyalty to you, he's gonna care, and like he cares about his sisters, but maybe he's got some trouble like ahead of him as he's gonna have to learn like the potential pitfalls of his actions.
Yeah.
So I think that's all interesting. I think that's those are kind of changes I can get behind. And I think the performance is excellent. Maybe my favorite, definitely one of my favorite.
Yeah, speaking of one of my favorites, Zoe Robbins is Nynaeve Almira. She, the first episode, she didn't have a ton to do, but by the end, she's probably my favorite of the group, and I think it's because she's had the most to showcase so far. She's been able to show a lot of range, had some cool moments, and I love the relationship with Lan that we've already started to see develop that I've picked up on.
We talked about it a little bit in the book too.
I caught some hints, but this is obviously
they lean into a little more here.
Yeah.
I think she's great. I agree. She's different kind of person, different kind of character, but there are certain essential things to Nynaeve that she nails. There's a feistiness and a stubbornness and a capability. All of these things, a distrust of anything outside Two Rivers.
Yep.
She's like one of the most stubborn Two Rivers first kind of people. And I think she's bringing all that to the role, and with not a lot of screen time, at least early on. And yeah, I think she's great.
Yeah. We talked about Lan. Let's talk about him again. Daniel Henney. Fucking killing it, in my opinion. Totally awesome.
Yeah, I think he's good. I struggle a bit with him because this is a character who's very different than the Lan I imagined.
Okay.
However, I do like what he's doing with him. And the longer it has progressed, the more I like it.
Yeah.
And the more I can see where they're going, and I can see what he's doing. And I feel like this is a choice the actor, I don't know if this is true, but I feel like a choice the actor is bringing to the character to play him in a slightly different way. And at first it jarred a little bit with me, but then I felt like, okay, I can see what he's doing here, and I'm growing into it, and I'm liking it.
Interesting. So I felt like for me it was I didn't have an adjustment period really for Lan. What could you put your finger on it?
It's interesting. It's subtle stuff because everything with Lan is subtle for the most part. Like he doesn't say a lot. He doesn't do he tends to do stuff kind of at the edge, but Lan is a very gruff. Sort of no nonsense. The way he interacts with the farm boys, which is what he calls them a lot. The way he interacts with Moraine, he has like this real steel to him, and he's like truly this like badass who is tied to Moraine, and it's so weird to see a character as capable and efficient and deadly around her. It makes them just such a formidable pair. For whatever reason, he felt a lot more like, I'm like Nynaeve. To me, it felt more like he was being portrayed as almost a servant to Moraine.
Interesting.
As that trained lapdog that she said, I thought that's what you were. And I think the show kind of leans into that early on, and then we, along with Nynaeve, see that there is more to him than that. For me, I felt like there was always more to him to that in the books, and I think that some of that may have been a deliberate choice. They wanted us to feel like Nynaeve and to sort of realize it as she did. So again, that's a character I've gone on a journey with a little bit, but I think he's starting to come into his own. We also haven't. I mean, we've seen him kill some shit, but like, I feel like we haven't seen like a lot of true badassery out of him yet.
What it is we haven't seen him on his own doing badass stuff. We've seen him doing badass stuff with Moraine in the background. And that sort of
he's
thing.
just like fighting off some Trollocs while she's doing like big magic.
He's gonna have big moments just for himself. I'm
sure,
right?
I want to see this guy draw down on somebody and do something really cool.
We didn't get to see him just like go off a fade like we did in the book, right?
Yeah.
Like he's already killed a fade up to this point, took him down single-handedly, basically.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool. We talked about Moraine. Rosamund Pike is Moraine, and I think that she is kind of the keystone of this whole structure so far.
Mixed at first, and again, much like Lan, I think I'm growing to like her a lot more and more in this role. At first, I felt like, I think this might be some of the book problems fucking with me, because it just didn't feel like she was Moraine.
Okay.
And I had to get over the difference.
It's interesting, because I think part of maybe the reason that I haven't been with her for that long, it's only been a few weeks.
Yeah.
I'm easier to pick up like the performance and kind of like mix the two in my mind.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. If for whatever reason, like it's a character that I hold near and dear to my heart, and it's hard for me to like see her as Moraine at first. But then it's like, I don't know, there's certain people, you see them in a role and you're just like, yeah, that's them. Like, think about, like, fucking Gandalf, right? Like, Ian McKellen is Gandalf. You're like, that's Gandalf.
Right.
Like, so I didn't have that when I saw her first showing up.
I just feel like she has a power and a presence on screen that
that's for sure.
For me, like, I was like, she's Moiraine. Like, and maybe, honestly, part of it could have been that I'd seen the trailer, seen her as Moiraine, and had been imagining her as Moiraine the whole time.
Again, I guess that first opening battle, it wasn't enough for me to like to sell me on her as Moraine. It really took, I think, like episode 4 and what happened there, where I was like, okay, I think I'm really starting to feel her as Moraine now.
Cool.
So we'll get there.
Tam, when he's stabbed by a Trolloc, I guess we should mention
Roose Bolton.
Roose Bolton, yeah.
He's not quite the Roose Bolton we know. He's instead this lovable Tam Althor.
Yeah, Michael Michelhaden. He is Roose. Yeah, Roose Bolton is pretty ruthless and brutal.
Oh yeah.
And I bought him very quickly as Tam, and I thought he was like a fun, farmer.
This is a veteran actor.
Yeah.
Bringing it.
Character.
And like I feel like we get some of that later too, and maybe that was part of the issue a little bit with this early is you have a lot of like young, fairly new actors. And of course, like, even as Rosamund Pike, when I'm talking about maybe me buying her as Moraine, there's nothing to be said about her quality of acting is very high. Mm-hmm. And there's like, that's the thing. You've got like a few veteran actors who really know what they're doing and who sort of carry the performance from a performance angle. And I think he's one of those, like, he can play this kind of role in his sleep. He's got this down.
Totally nailing it. I was bummed that when he was stabbed by the Trolloc, we didn't get hallucinations of his, like, interesting identity and that sort of thing.
Well, that would be a spoiler for show watchers only, so let's not lean around it too long. Right. But yeah, there is some stuff like that in the book.
There's some more lore, backstory sort of, like, stuff to sort of roll around in your mind. And also, Tom isn't introduced in this first episode.
He's not. We'll have to get to him later when he is introduced.
And I think it's because there's a lot of fucking characters that people are being introduced.
And I do just want to say, in general, the cast, I love how diverse they made it. I think brilliant. You got to do it, and I guess you don't have to. Shows don't, but I'm so glad they did. I think the show needs it.
Right. There was no sort of trepidation for me at all. Like, it started, and it felt so natural to me, and I just went along with it. I loved it.
Yeah. So one other thing that is immediately introduced is a big change. The Dragon Reborn could be a girl or a boy.
Yeah, interesting. Surprising, but didn't bother me. I was like, okay, cool,
good change.
Yeah,
good change. And again, they might change stuff. We don't know.
Yeah.
So it generally could be a girl or a boy in the show. I don't know.
That would be wild, right?
I don't know.
If they change the stuff. I mean, who knows? Yeah,
who knows what they're going to do? That will be a big change. But
what if the whole group was the Dragon Reborn?
Exactly. They could do. Yeah. Could there be more than one? Like, who knows? It could be really interesting. And again, I haven't finished the series, so I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, also my wife wanted me to point out this was a must mention. She's very disappointed that the Aes Sedai don't have the colored shawls that is described multiple times in the books that evoke their Ajah, and instead they seem to dress all in a color, which to me is maybe a bit much. Especially when you can be identified and killed for being an Aes Sedai.
That's what I was thinking.
Maybe don't dress all in blue and all in green and all in red if you don't want to be fucking spotted on the road by a white cloak.
Thinking, it's like it's pretty clear who the Aes Sedai are.
That person in head to toe one color. Yeah, they don't do that in the book.
Right. So we got to jump into episode 2. It's called Shadows Waiting. In a White Cloak encampment, an Aes Sedai is burned at the stake. The Two Rivers villagers flee with Moiraine and Lan from pursuing Trollocs and a Fade. They flee across a river using Terran's ferry. To prevent the Trollocs from following, Moiraine uses the One Power to sink the ferry, killing the ferryman, which disturbs the villagers. Along their journey to Tar Valon, Egwene learns she has the potential to channel. Perrin encounters wolves. The villagers have disturbing dreams about the Dark One Baelzamon. Mistrust and tension between Moiraine and the villagers grow. Moiraine grows wearier and exhausted from her injury when Trollocs catch up. Lan makes the hasty decision to have them enter Shadar Logoth to escape. While in Shadar Logoth, the group is attacked and separated by Mashadar, the twisted evil that inhabits the city. The group is separated and disoriented. Nynaeve is revealed to be alive and confronts Lan about the villagers.
No more death.
No more death.
No more death. Sounded
like you were saying no more death.
No more
zero
death. We talk about him in our last episode, if you're curious who that is. Okay, so some interesting stuff here. White Cloaks, I like the look. I like the vibe. I think they nail it, right? Like, these guys are wrapped in the cloak of righteousness, right? Like, they're like, we're doing the right thing, we fight for good, and we're gonna do it by killing Dark Friends, and all Aes Sedai are Dark Friends, and we kill all of them. And much like burning witches at the stake, right? Like, anything you do, if you start out knowing you're right going in, then there's no remorse, and you just are going to come in and do what you got to do, right? And or what you think you got to do. And I think that makes them frightening. They've always been a very interesting group within the Wheel of Time lore, and I liked seeing them here. I feel like they're bringing them into the story early and starting to set them up as a potential looming threat. And I think it's smart because I have come to appreciate how stories that only have supernatural threats can start to get stale pretty quickly. And what you need some humans. You need some recognizable threats. And to me, that just makes it more interesting and more layered, right? Like you have people who are just making mistakes and are just wrong-headed. And that's the White Cloaks to a T, right? Like they think they've got something figured out and they're going to fucking live and die by it. And you know that they don't. You know that they're actually like doing the Dark One's bidding without even realizing it. Yeah. And yet they're dressed all in white and pretending like they're agents of light and all this shit. And anyway, I love all that, and I'm glad they brought it here.
Look, I agree. The look is good. I think the way that they like wrap layers and like robes and there's like some sort of armors and stuff. Yeah. And like I think it looks good, and it differentiates it from like sort of knights and that sort of. It looks good.
And they differentiate between questioners and like the soldiers, which is something that like you don't learn about a lot until later in the books. But like here we're already setting that up. They
definitely don't have a scene where they seem bumbling like they did in the book. So like right away you can see them as a threat. We were basically introduced to them burning in Aes Sedai, and it's pretty fucking brutal. I also want to say that basically right after that in the episode, we get the intro for the first time, and it's really cool. It's got like this weaving, you were talking about like how they're like the weaving of the channeling. Yeah. And part of me was thinking like, it gives good scale. You see this like tapestry forming, and all these the main characters are like becoming myths in this tapestry. It looks like they're like got holy like light around them and stuff, and I thought that was so cool. It's a kind of Aes Sedai as well. It's I guess you can't specifically say who is who, but it kind of looks like some of the characters that we know. And it also feels like a Game of Thrones type intro mixed with a Westworld of things going together, but
it's good.
I like it.
Yeah, it does the job, does the trick.
Good score too. Good music, and I think the show overall has a good score. I actually feels like a feature film score. Like it's got like a lot of depth to it, and it's very. You gotta nail
the score in a fantasy series.
Yeah, it doesn't feel cookie cutter. It feels like its own thing. You could recognize it just from the sound. Yeah,
I agree. One scene that stands out from this episode that I really like is them talking about Manetheren and the song.
Yeah.
This was I read somewhere that this was a scene that Rafe Judkins or somebody had to fight to keep in the show, right? Like people wanted it cut,
right?
And
he felt it was really important.
It's important, and it's important to establish Two Rivers lore and to establish the thing that unites a lot of these characters, like the idea of deep roots and like leaning on the strength of your forefathers and stuff like that. Like that's a big thing in the books, and obviously the cyclical nature of the wheel. Which, by the way, there was also a cool scene with like the lights burning in the river. And Tam gives like a really cool speech about people being reborn. And like I thought that was a cool like tying the wheel idea to like religion in this world in a way that we don't necessarily get a lot of in the book early on. But I thought it brought it to the fore. So that's all good, leaning into the wheel metaphors. And then this song, this scene where they talk about what Manetheren is. I think that's going to pay dividends later when you're trying to lean on this lore because it becomes more important. You will have established it in a way that if you cut this scene, you cut out the foundation. Now, a lot of stuff gets cut out here from the books, but one of the things we do get is this fairy moment. However, they change it. They have Moiraine kill the ferryman.
Yeah, it feels like it's cold-blooded.
But
Moiraine.
It was also weird. Like he swam back out to it for no fucking reason. I don't know. It was a strange thing. In the book, she just sinks the ferry. He's not on it.
It's kind of giving us that scene where Nynaeve sees them, and she's like, I'd rather them die than them get in the hands of the Dark One. And I guess she's like, you're seeing that Moiraine is like a means to an end person. And like,
but she says something completely different later in the show.
She does, yeah. But it's like, I don't know. It definitely gives you that feeling where like the villagers don't trust her. So that's what I guess they were trying to get across.
Well, they were trying to like blur the lines a little bit of the Aes Sedai. Like, not necessarily...
Good guys.
Good guys through and through. Totally. I get why they did it. It just, I don't know, a little weird.
So we get to Shadar Logoth.
Yeah. Shadar Logoth. I thought it looked pretty good. Is this big city, big empty city. I liked the lore and them talking about the Trollocs and stuff, how they won't come in the city and all this stuff. I thought that was pretty good. And then you get Matt finding the dagger. Oh boy.
Yeah. I do want to say I love how the city looked. Like it looked exactly how I was imagining. I love how they lit it. Yeah. There were some good shots of just like them sort of taking it in.
Yeah. It's a big thing for episode 2. Mm-hmm. And it's like the next big location we get really after Two Rivers. Mm-hmm. It's a very fantasy thing.
Right.
Whereas in the book we get another town that they go to for a while and they stay at an inn. So I don't know. It's just interesting. That's one of those things that when you do some changes and some shuffling around and you omit a certain chunk of a story, now all of a sudden you're landing at this ruin as your next big setting. It's a big ask, I think, for people. But I think it mostly works. And again, the big black creeping shit, like that's also a big ask. That's a lot of weird fantasiness.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like it's kind of a lot to throw at you and expect you to just go, okay, there's a weird creeping death that just kills stuff and eats a horse.
Yeah.
And is unexplained, really. It's just an evil.
Right. Yeah,
you get a character in Mordeth a little bit in the book, but you don't get any of that here. It's just evil.
I did think that it sort of worked for the modern audience watching the show. If we had some like shadowy figure luring Matt away, it's more. Yeah,
I'm not saying Mordeth necessarily would work in the show,
but I thought it worked like him sort of like on his own going around. If you find a dagger in the ruins, like you don't know any better, you're gonna take it,
right?
You know, and then of course he releases this.
Mashadar, I think it was called, something like that. And then that splits the party, which in the book I think is a good moment, and here I think is a good moment because it leads to some of our best stuff in episode 3 and 4. You split these people up, you give them moments to shine on their own, and I was happy that happened. I think it's an okay episode, maybe slightly better than episode 1, but still, I think you got to watch episode 3 and 4 really before you're going to get a real feel for what the show is good at and what it can do.
Yeah. One thing I did kind of miss with this is in Shadar Logoth, when the boys like returned from the Mordeth thing, and then that's when Lan and Moiraine were like, what have you done? And all of this other stuff, like sort of, we didn't get that because they split up immediately.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like they were with Lan and Moiraine very long. You know, it's very, very quick. There's not a lot of interactions. Fast. All right, well, episode 3 is called A Place of Safety. The Two Rivers villagers are separated from Moiraine and each other, with Matt and Rand trekking across the wilderness in one direction and Egwene and Perrin in another. Lan and an injured Moiraine are confronted by an angry Nynaeve, demanding to know the location of the villagers. A flashback shows Nynaeve escaping, outsmarting and killing the Trolloc that captured her. Wolves follow Egwene and Perrin has a nightmare about the wolves and a mysterious fiery-eyed figure. They find safety and rest with Tuatha'an, or Tinkers, a peaceful nomadic group. Matt and Rand argue about whether to go home or to the White Tower, with Matt showing darker tendencies that Rand dislikes. They encounter a Gleeman, Tom Merlin, in a village where he steals their gold. Later, Tom rescues them from a dark friend. Nynaeve and Lan argue about the villagers and whether Nynaeve should heal Moiraine. Eventually, Nynaeve concedes, using herbs to help the Aes Sedai while Lan scouts. Moiraine recovers enough to travel, and they encounter Red Sisters on the road, including Liandrin, who have captured the self-proclaimed Dragon Reborn, Logain Ablar, a man who can channel the One Power.
Yeah, man, I want to jump right to it. Tom Merlin, introduced in this episode.
Yeah.
I got chills. Like, I my wife and I turned to each other. We were sitting on the couch, so you probably saw us, and we were just, like, giving each other eyes. Like, it was like, yeah. He's a character that I love. You mentioned how you really liked him early on. Yeah. And then I think this is a great Tom. I think this is again an example of a guy who knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. I don't know who this guy is, but he seems like someone who knows what he's doing and must have been in some stuff because he's nailing this role, in my opinion. And sure, maybe he's a little younger and sexier than I was imagining Tom in the book. He doesn't have the big mustache like he does in the book, but I think he's great.
Yeah, he's really good. So less lighthearted than I was expecting. But
he has a very serious introduction.
But I'm into it. It's cool. Like you said, sexy. Like he's just putting off that
intense,
vibe. Alexander William.
Okay.
is Tom Maryland.
Yeah,
and
he's good,
he's
man.
doing a great job so far. I love the way that they interact originally. Right. The like random guy steals from Matt, then Tom steals back from that random guy to hold it over Matt's head and then keep the gold, and just like fun like sort of antics like that.
Man, you get that scene later with him and Matt in front of the dead Ailman. And this is like two of my favorite performances so far coming together, like performers coming together. And I thought that was great chemistry. Him saying like, I'll turn my back, you do what you got to do. Mm-hmm. Matt clearly is like torn over his wanting to like rob this buddy, but he does it anyway. Mm-hmm. And you're like, you don't know how the scene's going to play out. Like, I thought it was a really interesting scene. I really liked it. And both of them are behaving in ways that are unexpected.
Right.
And it's just working. And again, he's this kind of mentor character. He becomes it. Unfortunately, it's doesn't last very long.
It's way too quick.
Everything happens fast in this show. Tom's introduced and then summarily left fighting a fate on his own, and who knows what happens to him.
In a badass moment, which we'll get to.
Cool moment.
I want to talk about the Aiel because, the significance was sort of more clear to me than it was in the book. I think it probably would be for other people as well.
Yeah.
It's like there's a red hair sort of thing that they're like, oh, how about this red hair? Wink, wink, like situation. Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Did make a note of that hair, didn't they?
Oh, wow. So that's something that I definitely picked up on that I didn't quite put together in the book. So it's a cool detail that I'm looking forward to getting more of. Yeah. I mean, I think
in the book they just talk about how tall they are.
Right.
I don't know if we get the hair color thing, but maybe we do offhandedly. But I
didn't catch it if so.
It's just hearing something's different than seeing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought they were cool design. They had even this like skeletal man and the
talking
veil.
About the veil. That's very important. Black veiled ailment. Yeah,
that's cool.
It's a big thing.
I'm into it. I think it's cool, and like I'm looking forward to seeing more about that people.
Oh man, he drops a great line earlier in the episode too.
Yeah.
They're like talking about where they're going, and Rand says, "They say all roads lead to Tar-Valon," and he's like, "That's not how roads work."
Yeah, that's good Matt comedy. Like I'm happy to see that stuff because that fits the character so much.
So good, man. That got a laugh out loud moment for me for sure. Which you need to see that again. He does have a little bit of that comic relief without being like a goofball.
Right.
He's not. He just is clever. He's got some clever lines, and then he does some shit where you're like, I don't know about Matt. This is perfect. This is what you want from Matt.
Yeah.
So I think he's nailing it, and I think the character is one of the highlights of the show so far for me. Let's talk about the Tinkers, right? Yeah. This is a big part that we had just read in the book. It does, unfortunately, we skip over the introduction of a certain character from the book. Okay. Not here, not present.
Bummed, hoping that character shows up, but honestly think that they might not.
He might not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he hits the cutting room floor. Maybe they bring him in later. Yeah. Because, if he ends up needing to be more front and center, I could see them bringing him in later.
I think
early on they were like, this maybe is too many.
That was one of my favorite parts in this section of the book where we're getting this interaction with this character and the connection to the wolves and sort of explaining some of that. It's very clear that the Perrin relationship with the wolves is different, but they're leaning into it a little bit. I don't know how
they're holding off on it. It seems like
how internal are we going to get? Are we going to get wolves voices, or are we going to have voice actors for wolves or not?
I don't know.
I hope so, dude.
You think you did?
I kind of fucking hope so. Yeah, it's part of the story, even if it's not moving its mouth, obviously, just in his head.
I kind of don't think we will.
Yeah.
But we might.
I think we need something.
It may be hard to do and pull off, but they might do it. They might go for it. It may be more like him saying like what he might be explaining to somebody what he interprets or something. Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, we get introduced to the Tinkers and Aram. I think this guy's great. I think he looks the part. I think he's like, he's that really attractive, dashing guy who clearly him and Egwene have some chemistry early on, which I think is important. And he does a good job sort of explaining the Tinkers and the way of the leaf, which I like that was not, like omitted. They weren't just made, I think you make the Tinkers fundamentally, honestly, what they are different if you don't have the way of the leaf and you don't bring that to the front and center, and you talk about how they're pacifists. Mm-hmm. And of course, that interacts with Perrin. And this is the first time that we see some dividends from what happened in episode 1. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a long time to go before we really get a feel for like Perrin actually having to grapple with what he's done.
I do like that they like keyed in immediately on, do you know the song?
Yeah.
And like that, because it's very important to them.
How do you feel about that, by the way? We didn't really talk about that a lot.
It's
the idea of this lost song that they're in search of.
And it brings peace.
Well, this is the first time, we didn't get an explanation really of the song, I think, in the book as much.
They talked about the song, but we didn't get, like you said, we didn't get
and this is something you learn about later.
Yeah.
I think this is it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
This
they're
is the
giving
explanation.
more like the idea of like the last wheel rotation. This happened and this happened. Like some legends are carrying over in more clear lines and ways.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's very cool. I think it's a cool idea to be seeking out something that has power potentially. It'd be cool to see how that goes forward. It is reminding me of something else from the book episode that hasn't been addressed really, but it was just that, and I meant to mention it in episode 2 of our book coverage. There's like a horn that's talked about, and I just from context clues know that what the second book is called and stuff. And like I'm like, oh, they're talking about events that are happening in book 2, so like they're already hinting at some of like there's like a hunt or something, the Great Hunt.
Yeah,
is that what it's called?
The Great Hunt.
It's being talked about. Yeah. So that was cool, and that's like sort of outside of this show. So we'll get back to the show here.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot about the Tinkers actually that happens next episode, I'm realizing. So let's save a little bit of Tinker talk. Let's go back to the one of the primary things that happens here is we get Matt and Rand arriving at this tavern, and they meet this woman, this bartender,
Dana, I think.
Yeah, and they start working for her. And there's a lot of interesting interactions here, right? We got some flirtations happening. We got Matt being petulant, and he doesn't want to do the sort of manual labor.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes in to flirt with her instead. And we get a lot of talk about like wanting to go home versus wanting to go out and explore. And I thought that was all very good, very interesting. And then we get the reveal that she's a dark friend.
Yeah, a little unexpected. You know, as time went on and she was hanging out with Rand in the room, it started to be clear, obviously. But unexpected at first.
You know what this is?
Yeah.
It's the economy of characters, right? Like, because like this is all, I feel like this was all great stuff. I kind of would have preferred these were kind of two different characters.
Yeah.
Because it kind of undercuts a lot of the stuff that she had, the interaction she had. But it's okay.
She kind of played
it works
off.
Okay,
Yeah,
and you get that revealed. Someone's a secret dark friend, and they've been lying all along. I think that's important. You want to establish that as a possibility going forward.
Well, and also she like plays it off as like, I'm really sorry. You seem really nice. She seemed genuine and saying, you seem really nice. We had a good connection.
But I
I
actually
am a
secretly worship the Dark Lord, and I want to be the person who delivered the dragon, and all this shit. Yeah.
So, conflicted, still a conflicted character, I guess, in a sense, but ultimately her ideals are what she sticks by.
It to me, it feels like this needed to be two characters, but for the economy of TV, they made it one. Yeah. Which is okay.
Yeah, and Tom straight up fucking murders her ass.
Hell yeah, he does.
He fucking knifes her in the back of the neck. It's pretty brutal. Tom fucking capable of anything, Just like
throws those knives.
Yeah, I did see something cool in the behind the scenes of this episode too, and it was specifically about Nynaeve running from the Trollocs and fighting at the beginning of the episode. And they've made these really cool camera rigs for the shoot. She's sort of running, and there's like a camera on a zip line, basically a remote controlled zip line where they can send it really fast across. And they were talking about like they were so blown away because Zoe Robbins is like such an athlete. She was running like faster than anybody could possibly imagine.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they had they had another one that was like a camera cart where they were like basically, four-wheeler go-kart kind of thing with a camera on it. And she was like outrunning the cart and stuff. And they were all like, couldn't believe it. And just like how much intensity she was bringing to that. And now, honestly, when you see that, when she's running straight towards camera with like the Trolloc in the background, that shot, like she brings an intensity to that.
Well, and we kind of glossed over that scene, but like she goes to the caves and the Trolloc comes in after her, and that was like the best looking Trolloc. It was like a showcase Trolloc.
Yep.
It was huge. It was fucking big.
Real big.
And then it's when it's coming after her, that thing's scary.
Yeah.
And then she gets up on there and stabs it. Like, I thought that was awesome. The blood comes out into this shape that then takes the form of mountains, I think, or
Great
something.
transition,
so it's kind of a
matching
cool transition.
Yeah.
They've done a little bit of stuff with like blood and water and stuff. Wait a minute, no, that isn't even the one. Yeah, I'm confusing it with the other one. That was, I think, when the Dark Friend got killed and her blood was in the water and transferred into the motion. This one was just, it turned into like a teardrop shape.
Right.
Which is important.
Yeah.
So they're doing a lot with like blood shapes and stuff, and so it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's again why I kind of confused the two things. Because I was like, twice in one episode, but it's a cool idea. I just don't know if you like go into the blood and water thing twice in a row. Yeah, maybe going back to the well too much.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I guess it didn't mean anything to you. But yeah, it very clearly forms a shape, though. You're probably like, why is this forming? This means something.
I could tell that for sure. I didn't know if that was something that like Trolloc blood did, or though, like, I haven't seen visual representations of some of that stuff. Yeah.
I do want to shout out. We got the inside of Tom's cloak is patchwork. I don't know if you saw that just for a brief moment. Yeah. And he whips it closed.
Love that.
I was so glad because like that's such a big thing, and the Gleamans have these patchwork cloaks, and they're so bright. and you have this other version of a character who's like much darker and like more serious, yet the inside he's got that.
Yeah.
That made me happy.
Yeah.
I like that
like
a
I
lot.
said, at least they had that in a character that I expected to be a little more gleeful.
Yeah.
Gleeman, but yeah, he was.
That's fair.
I am enjoying it so far.
I hope we see a little more of him. And those of you who are book readers, I just wanted to point out a little Easter egg we got here. I don't know. This isn't a spoiler for you. It's just a name.
Okay.
But Moraine, when she is she's been laid low by her wound, and she starts mumbling, and she says something about Suin. Suin. Just want to point that out.
All
that
right.
is a.
I just put it all together. Thanks a lot for the spoiler.
That's a little bit of an Easter egg for something later. So
Nice.
I think it's an interesting moment, and I perked up a little bit when I heard that name. So.
Cool. All right, we got to move to the 4th episode, The Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, and at the end of this one, we see Logain for the first time, which is going to be a big part of the next episode for sure.
Yeah. So, The Dragon Reborn. Moraine is healed by the Aes Sedai and shown an imprisoned Logain, held by the continual channeling of several Aes Sedai. Liandrin and some Aes Sedai want to gentle Logain, permanently severing his connection to the One Power. However, Moraine believes he might be the Dragon Reborn. Egwene and Perrin travel with the Tinkers, heading towards Tar Valon, and Egwene learns that as part of the Way of the Leaf, they have vowed never to use violence. Rand, Mat, and Tom stay the night with a rural family. Tom tells Rand that he suspects Mat may be able to wield the One Power. His suspicious behavior resembles that of Tom's nephew, Owen, a man who could channel but killed himself after being gentled by Aes Sedai. That night, the family is killed by a Fade and Tom distracts it, allowing Rand and Mat to escape. Logain's army of followers arrives just as Logain uses the One Power to escape his imprisonment. Kareen Nagashi of the Green Ajah is killed, protecting Moraine and Liandrin from Logain's attack, while Lan's throat is slit. Nynaeve heals Lan and the injured Aes Sedai through a stunning display of the One Power. Liandrin and the Aes Sedai gentle Logain.
Okay, so there's a lot of leaps being made here. One of them is that the family was killed by the Fade. I thought that was a bit of an open question.
Oh, really? I thought it was kind of clear that it was meant to be like a
Fake
bait
out
and
that
switch.
he had done it,
a fake out.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
But I could see people not knowing.
Okay.
I think it's a bit of a cliffhanger as to like, did Matt actually kill some of them? But no, it's the Fade. I think that's obviously the Fade, but I don't know. He's acting creepy, right?
Right.
So you don't know like what's going on there. I also, I guess I wasn't. No, I was sure that he got gentled at the end. That's true. I recognize that. Yeah, because the way it pulled it out of him.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, this was the best episode I think for me.
A lot happened. A lot of things have been building to this throughout the show so far.
I thought it was great.
Great episode.
And this is something that makes me really excited to continue watching the show. And this is just a taste of what the magic in this world can be capable of. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on seeing. This is the biggest display I think we've seen of the One Power for you. Yeah.
I think we have to start at the beginning, specifically with Logain.
Yeah.
And he's like sieging the city.
Oh yeah, he's in Gildan or something.
Yes.
He's attacking the city somehow. Maybe just on his own, or maybe he has men.
I think he has men.
Yeah.
But ultimately gets to the king, and the king is hiding, and then he starts channeling, and the channeling looks different.
Yeah,
and there's
like a black mist.
It's whispering at him, and we're seeing the madness / maybe that's like what's the name for the male
Sadar,
maybe Sadar, automatic. Is it always there whispering in the ears of the men who are channeling? Anyway, it looked cool. I thought that that sort of sold the look of it to me.
Well, and again, it looks very different than that pure white mist. And it starts to make that choice work.
Yeah, but it's interesting too because as it comes out, there is a little bit of white mist, but then it's also overtaken with black. It looks like a little bit too. So I'm just oh, cool. That was crazy. And then he ultimately is about to kill this king or whatever, and or maybe he's not about to, and then that's when the voice says he'll betray you and all this stuff, and then he gets on a knee and takes this man, and he's like, join me or whatever.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that we see him not kill. The voices are telling him to kill the guy. He doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So he's able to resist,
Yep.
which I think is an interesting moment, right?
I mean, I still haven't gotten full confirmation if this guy is up to this point of the show, I think it's pretty obvious. But in the book, this is the first time I'm seeing Logain for real, and I'm like, What if he is kind of a
Would
Dragon
you be
Reborn?
shocked to hear that this is stuff that happens in later? This is when we're talking about stuff happening from later books.
Yeah.
This is some of it.
I
here.
believe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Logain's
story happens very rapidly in the show.
You can see that it's possible. People in the world are thinking it's possible he really is the Dragon Reborn, and it sold me, an audience member who didn't know much going in, that he could potentially be kind of, I'm like, at the end of the day, I don't think he is, but
yeah,
it showed enough to where he's powerful and pretty much unstoppable.
I should say, I think, like, yeah. I am not the best at the chronology of events of Wheel of Time. Other people may fully know this better than me. My memory is that the stuff with Logain happens a little later. I could be proven wrong. Next episode, when we finish out the book, and who knows, we'll see.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's so many things I want to talk about in this episode. Lan, this is like one of the best Lan episodes, right? We get him and Nynaeve talking. We get Lan actually off on his own, he's doing rituals. He's talking about the Seven Towers. He's praying. And she even says, like, there's more to you than I thought, and I think this is a great moment. And the chemistry between them, I think, has been genuine. I think there was the moment in the forest, I think previous episode maybe, where they're healing Moraine and they're having some like heart to heart. There's a real give and take about who's actually in power here.
I gotta talk about the scene where she like pulls the sword on him or whatever, and he's like, I know that you won't, or whatever, and she lunges hard at him.
Yeah,
and he's like, holy shit, you were gonna fucking kill me.
He's like, oh, you're gonna kill me.
He's like, I'm into that though.
And then I do have to mention he then does the TV knockout. It's just not a fucking TV show if someone doesn't get a gentle bump in the head to transition you to a later scene.
Right.
Yeah.
But he was like into the fact that she tried to kill him too. I thought that was notable. He was like, oh, you tried to kill me.
There was some movie where they played with that and like someone fucking died from getting hit in the head, right? If not, there's got to be. This needs to happen. This is someone I thought I just talked about for a minute and then they just fucking die.
That's a thing for sure.
It's got to.
I really like the relationship. I like Lan. Like I said, I'm enjoying his performance. I think that he's a badass, and both of those characters interacting being two of the most interesting so far has just been a lot of fun. And the way that like eventually Nynaeve comes around to actually helping Moraine, and then we see Aes Sedai, and in my notes I'm just like, Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
We saw, getting more than just like the Red Aja, just like chasing people down and killing them. Getting to actually see sort of the relationship, they all kind of know each other. It seems like they have a history. And, I think it's starting to thread the idea that they all have different personalities based on, and then they all kind of fit in different groups based on that, and they all have different goals potentially.
Yeah.
It seems like Leandrin seems like she just wants to gentle anyone who's a threat.
Yeah, the red Aes Sedai. So, and I love Nynaeve has a moment where she says, that woman's a snake, after she talks to her. I thought that was good. And she's like, are they all like that at the White Tower? To Lan.
Yeah.
I wanted to get, that's something I was like dying to hear your thoughts on. We learn a lot more about warders here and their bonds.
Oh, yeah.
And the greens with their multiple, like some of them have multiple warders.
Yeah. And
then talking about the relationships. And at one point, that one walks off with the two. And
right. And they're actually going to go fuck it.
They're going to go fuck. Yeah. She's like, they aren't going to. And she's like,
yeah, they are. So it seems like some of them can have a relationship that's like romantic as well. But
and then did you hear that when he said like it's deeper than any... Right. He's like, it's deeper than a child and a parent, and it's like deeper than anything. Yeah. And then I don't know if you noticed it, but I noticed it. There was some jealousy in them eyes.
Yeah.
When she heard that, she's like, that's even if it's not romantic, which we don't. I think it's still kind of up for debate on whether or not it is. Right. We did see like a bath scene early on in the show. I think where
it was sort of like a weirdly platonic bath scene though. Like it wasn't anything overly sexual.
Yeah, they're just nude together. Very obviously very comfortable with each other.
So the other thing is that we're told specifically, and I don't even think we've gotten this in the book, is that warders can feel whatever happens to the Aes Sedai. Yeah. And I think vice versa, potentially.
Yeah. Oh, man, that made me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
You always get emotional when I drink. Yeah. That is a great line, right?
Yeah.
It was so perfect. He's like, I shouldn't have had that drink. You always get emotional when I drink.
The connection is very clear. Yeah, I love that. And then, by the end of the episode, we actually see an Aes Sedai die. And see a warder literally feeling that.
Yeah. And what he like fucking loses it, right?
Right. Yeah,
yeah, that guy with the two axes. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Seemed cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had that cool interaction with Lan when they were sort of training together.
Yeah. They were. That was a cool thing, man. I think the warders are super interesting.
Yeah.
And
I still don't fully understand it. Obviously,
obviously.
Cool. Yeah.
But they talk about the connection, and Nynaeve says, "You serve them." And they were like, not really, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, Aes Sedai means like someone who serves or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
And it really, to me, establishes like it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this. Like it's a calling, and it's not. They don't view it as being a servant.
Right.
Maybe other people do, but it was really cool to have that interaction, talking to them, not Lan, and have someone else talk about that bond. I thought it was very cool.
Definitely, yeah.
Love that stuff.
Seen that whole group.
So I want to bounce back to the Tinkers, who I had more I wanted to say, because we get more of their story here. We learn more about the Way of the Leaf, and in particular, we had one of my favorite lines from the show. I loved it. I forget the name of the character who he's speaking to, but he's speaking to this woman who's like one of the matriarchs of this group, and she says, "What greater revenge against violence than peace?" And I thought that was so cool. Like because he says like, what happens if someone kills someone you love, and that's her response. And I just think that's a powerful thing to put into the world right now.
Yeah.
And it is almost like next level shit, right? Because we're all used to the world of John Wick and Taken and like fucking get out there and kill them all, and then like ultimately like
someone's gonna come kill you.
We have a lot of stories about how that just leads to more violence, but also like it doesn't bring anybody back. It doesn't really fix anything. Mm-hmm. Not to saying I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not saying that people don't deserve justice and vengeance and stuff like that sometimes, and I think there's a fine line between the two. But yeah, the idea of pacifism and peace and like the way to get off the cycle of violence is to abstain and to say, no, I'm not going to take part in it anymore.
Right.
And bringing that idea to Perrin after what he's done and what he's seen is powerful. And I think they're finally getting to a very interesting thing that happens with Perrin over the course of several books. And they're speeding that thing way, way up fast.
Yeah.
And they're getting to it quick. And I'm curious to see how well they're able to do it. I think they really started on the wrong foot with this character. But we're finally at a moment where it's getting kind of interesting, and it's like they're finally doing something with this. And I hope it goes well, man. I want to like him. I want to like this character, and I want to like this performance. I feel like there's a long way to go to buy me back in.
Yeah.
Because still, if someone asks me how do I feel about Perrin in the show, still very disappointed.
Yeah.
This again, admittedly, favorite character in the book, most likely, probably my favorite character, and tough in the show.
Nothing against Marcus Rutherford either.
Nothing against him at all.
It's just the writing.
Not his fault.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, because we're kind of in the same spot for Perrin in the book and in the show. So I really want to know like sort of what his arc is in this story, the first book specifically, Eye of the World, and what's covered for him, what he's attaining these wolf-like powers. I want to see how that looks in the show going forward as well.
Yeah.
How they're able to handle that. But we got to talk about the end here.
Yeah, it's a big moment, right? Yeah. So you get the army of the dragon, this false dragon, Logain, arrives at the camp and is attacking. And we did get a badass statement of not even an army can stand against 7 full Aes Sedai. And I was like, fuck, that's some shit from the books. Like, that's like, okay, we're about to see some earth-moving power out there.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
I don't know if I quite bought that not even an army can stand against them. We probably only saw about 100 people at any given time.
Right.
That's not an army. That's like maybe a battalion or something. I don't know.
It's a season 1 budget fight,
It was a season 1 budget fight. And that was when I wrote down, like, if they want to do this series justice going forward, they're going to have to open up their wallets.
Yeah.
Because we're going to need more and we're going to need bigger. Yeah. And I think they set a low bar here.
Exactly.
And they're like, this is the bar now.
Right.
And we're going to go above this.
We can go above this. Even this season, you'll see more than this.
And like, I got a little bit of a chill when she said that. Like, not even an army can stand against seven full Aes Sedai. And I was like, yeah, that's what I love in the books, and I want to see it. I want to see the show pull it off.
Got to give them credit too, because in like when they were actually weaving and doing all this, they chose to thread in some slow mo and some beauty shots of like just like fucking explosions going on while they're like posing.
One of my favorites, the arrows. Catching the arrows was in the trailer, and I thought, it just kind of looks okay. I don't know. But then when she turns and rains them down on them when they're running at it, I was like, that was cool.
That was cool.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. So I was happy with the fight. You know, the warders are out there kicking ass too, which was nice.
I wish we got, I don't know. I want more from the warder combat a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like it tends to get overshadowed by the big flashy magic happening.
It's tough
and
to
we
not,
just see a couple flashes of people slashing in slow motion usually.
We need like
I want to see
big bad showdown with land versus a Fade.
Or something.
You know, 1v1, big, grueling, long, drawn-out battle.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Robert Jordan has a really interesting style for writing sword fights. We haven't really gotten it yet in the book. I wonder if we'll get it by the end. I think we do, but I'm not sure. And I'll be interested to know what your thoughts are on it, because it's actually kind of controversial.
Oh, wow.
The way he writes them. But I kind of like them. But we'll see. It's a very stylistic thing. We'll talk about it. So look forward to our book episode, which will be coming next week on that one.
Yeah.
But yes, okay. So an Aes Sedai dies. We're going into the cave, and Logain starts to slip. Right, like he starts to get out, and he's pushing against them. He's showing his power.
Yeah.
And this is a powerful dude, right? Multiple Aes Sedai trying to hold him down with this shield, and yet he's still forcing his way out. He dissolves the cage he's in, just fucking melts it.
Yep.
And then we get this line about like the Dragon Reborn, like you'll be a pinprick to the sun or something like that, right? Like,
candle to the sun,
like a raging sun.
Right.
I like that line from Moraine. I thought it was excellent, and the way she was like flexing on him with that. She's like, she's been impressed by him all along, and she's even been like, oh, this guy might be the real thing. But she's like telling him he's not here, which I thought was pretty cool. I think
it's very clear that all of these, and that's another thing to note. All of these 7 Aes Sedai against an army would be fine. And Moiraine is not... She's extremely powerful as far as like magic has been concerned in this world, I would think.
Yeah.
You've seen the other Aes Sedai, one of the first scenes of the entire show. They take down that other false dragon. And or, whatever, channeler, male channeler. Channeler who's a man. And he...
That might have been them capturing Logain. I'm trying to remember.
No. It was a different guy, and they just...
Was it?
Yeah. There was like 2 people. Remember, they were like running together, and he was like, "Leave him alone, and I'll let you take me out." Or whatever.
That wasn't Logain?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So, they're very, very clearly powerful, and then they're being overpowered by one person at the same time is hugely important, because it's showing the scale is sort of growing as we're going. You know what I mean? Things are getting bigger and scarier.
Yeah. Well,
another thing is the. Somebody says that the women can't see men's weaves.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
That's a detail from the books.
Yeah.
And I was very glad to see it here. That makes for an interesting thing, right? Like, how do you fight something like that? You can't see it. I like that you caught that. But I want to know your thoughts on power levels and combating magic. And if this guy, Logain, isn't the Dragon Reborn, and he's this level of power, and it's taken this many people to hold him down, like, what does that tell you about the Dragon Reborn, right?
Like and then, of course, we see
Nynaeve.
Yeah.
Boom, and then like she fucking heals a room full of people.
Yeah.
And like a burst of healing fucking...
Except the green Aes Sedai. I was like, oh man, you can't heal the last one, you healed everybody else.
Isn't she dead though?
Yeah, I think
she doesn't bring someone back to life, but she heals everybody who's just injured.
She didn't have that sliver of life left in her.
But it's because of Lan.
Yeah.
Who'd been injured,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
He was about to die. He was bleeding out. I was like, holy shit. Because of course I didn't think she was going to heal an entire room of people. I was just like, holy shit, they're going to kill Lan.
So that was a big surprise.
Yeah. I was like thinking, Luke seems to feel like he seems to be hinting that there's a lot more to Lan than just like half of the
Yeah, you're like, he fucking dies here? Or what?
Exactly.
I bet that was blowing your mind a little bit. But that's cool, man. I'm glad. And it was a cool scene. Again, I think this is something from later books that's getting moved up a little bit. But I think it works here. And I think... again, we're getting this change, and we hear tale about 5 potentials,
right?
And clearly they're bringing Nynaeve as one of the potentials here. We also that story about Owen and how he recognizes some of the signs in Matt. What did you think about that? Matt is a potential channeler.
I mean, like, I kind of feel like with the Nynaeve channeling thing. I mean, of course she's probably just Aes Sedai and it kind of leading us down that path in the book as well up to this point, and Egwene as well, channeling clearly. I guess they're all going to channel. Be my theory. If Matt seems like he's got the makings of one to Tom at least.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's a spoiler to talk about book knowledge.
Yeah.
So maybe I want to save that right here for the very end. I will give you a warning. I'm going to get into some book knowledge. But just real quick, we both loved this last episode. I think this is a good sign. We're both excited going forward and to see the next ones. But overall thoughts about the state of the show, the nature of the magic, the nature of the characters, everything where we're at right now. How do you feel going forward?
I think I hinted and said basically just as much at the beginning, but I feel like I can trust the filmmakers. I feel like I trust Rafe Judkins. I think he it's been rocky to get to this point, but I think it's like there's so much pressure to have a successful show. I think that like maybe like there's not enough goodwill out there for him to feel like with audiences to feel like he can take his time as much, and he feels like he needs to get into the meat of it to where people are invested and cool things are happening.
Well, 14 books is a lot, man. You're not going to get 14 seasons of this thing.
No, Game of Thrones only got 8 or whatever.
8, and that was still a long show for that. Right. Yeah,
I think that with everything that's gone on, I feel finally at the end of episode 4 that I can trust the show. I'm looking forward to it. It's not my favorite show I've ever seen, but I am really excited about the potential.
And are you excited to go back to the books now?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I want to know how this book ends. There's still so many unanswered things, and I want to see this Eye of the World that I keep talking about. I'm like, what's happening? Why is the book called Eye of the World if we're not going to get there?
Yeah, what a cool shot, too, when her hair blasts up and it becomes unbraided.
Yeah, unbraided is like obviously a significant thing, too, because they braid them in the two rivers.
There, yeah. Interesting, right? So the other thing with, there is one line, Logain repeats Moraine's line, and he says, like a raging sun or something when he's looking at her. And I want to ask you, am I just like a fucking jaded movie TV watcher who's been spending too much time reviewing shit to where like when a line like that gets repeated, I'm like, it's too much. Like,
yeah, I could see that.
To me, I'm like, I didn't need it again. Right. I thought that was implied in the moment. Mm-hmm. She's obviously bright like a sun. He's obviously impressed and like kind of like blown away with the power he's seeing. I didn't need him to say it in the moment. Yeah. It felt cheesy. But then I'm like, maybe we do.
Sometimes I think it's a taste thing at that point. Sometimes I think it's going to be, you kind of have to aim for the lowest common person watching the show to make sure they're catching some of this stuff. And I think people like us are going to forgive it if it's a little cornball at the moment or whatever, a little too much.
And the thing that I hated is it undercut the power of the earlier scene because it made it all about this moment, whereas I actually just liked that moment when it happened.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things where like you see this with like indie films and other things that can be more experimental and more about like letting the audience interpret. Yeah. A show like this, they can't afford to take chances with the kind of stuff. They got to make sure this is a
hit. Sure you get it. Well, they made sure. Yeah. I'm with you, man. I love the potential. I'm super excited going forward. I think now we are going to let you guys go. If you don't want to hear us talk about a book thing, I just have one quick book thing I want to ask you. All right. So in the books, we have the strong implication that the Dragon Reborn is a man. Mm-hmm. In the show, they have opened it up and said maybe it's a woman, right? In the books, it being a man means that the magic of the Dragon Reborn potentially has this taint to it, right? Like this thing that makes you mad. Right. There's a moment in this episode where she's talking with the other Aes Sedai and she says, what if he is the Dragon Reborn and we need him to fight this battle and we're going to gentle him or bring him, and we're going to shield him or we're going to block him from being able to use the power because we're worried about the madness. Mm-hmm. This, I think, is an essential question of the series. Right. And I don't know how they can still do this if they open up the idea of a woman being the one with it, because the woman's side of the magic is not tainted.
Yeah, it's interesting too because it's like, is this opening a conversation to be had about gender? Yeah, and you know what I mean? Is this a conversation where even if the dragon is a woman,
could the magic
still be touching the tainted magic? Yeah. Like it's maybe playing with something like that.
Yeah,
leaving the door.
They could,
open.
I guess. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, clearly the Aes Sedai feel like these men go insane when they're touching this magic and they start fucking killing people. And like we've even barely heard, but like they are known throughout history as being monsters. They raise up armies. They say they're the Dragon Reborn. People come to follow them, and then they start losing their shit. They lose their minds, and then they start killing people.
Right.
And it always turns into bad. And so the Aes Sedai are like, we got to prevent this from happening.
Mm-hmm.
But then, if this is these are the moments. This is the moment where we need the Dragon Reborn. Yet he's still going to have this tainted magic.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to maybe start being affected by it. That's like, what do you do? Like, what do the Aes Sedai do there?
I mean, it's a good question. They keep talking in the show a lot about, like, will the Dragon Reborn save the world or destroy it?
Yeah.
Bring ruin again, restart the cycle, whatever is going to happen. But it's interesting to think about this, like, omnipotent circle that's doing its own thing. If you break one key piece of it, if you break if the dragon is neither able to destroy or save the world, what happens to the rotation? Can we break outside of that? Can something else happen?
There was an interesting moment where Logain was saying the wheel wants this, the wheel wants that, and I think it was Moraine says the wheel doesn't want anything.
Right. It just goes.
It just is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not. There's no answer to this right now, but I wanted to highlight that this is a big question, and it was interesting to me that it made it into the show, yet we haven't established a way in which it still works. Based off of what I know in the show and what they're doing with the Dragon Reborn status. So I'm going to be curious to see how they address that going forward. That's why I did want to touch on it in our show episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've gone long. There was a lot to talk about, but if you enjoyed this episode, please let us know in the form of a rating and review on whatever app you chose to listen on. Apple Podcasts is like the perfect place. Leave us a review on there. I'd love to see us get to 100 ratings soon. That would be amazing. So we'd love it if you did that.
Yeah, make sure to connect with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all of those at Ink to Film, and join our Council of Inklings. We actually have a link for our Discord in there, which has been a lot of fun, a great way to interact more closely with our audience, like sort of more direct. And if you wanted that link, you could also get it from any other social media platform. Just like message us and we'll send it over.
That reminds me, I need to post a new one because it expires like weekly or something. Anyway, I'll post a new one. If you wanted to support us and you were like, man, this show is really good, I want to really support them, we have a Patreon, and it's not just giving us money. We have a lot of bonus content on there. We referenced earlier how we might watch this other version of this show.
It's not, I don't even know if it's
adaptation.
It's not about when. It's not about if we will. It's when we will.
When we will. Yeah. And that's the thing. We watch like alternate adaptations. We watch sequels to adaptations. We watch weird stuff, do experimental stuff. It's a lot of fun over there, and we are a little looser with it, and we think we put out good stuff. If you want a taste of that, you can see our From the Vault episodes from like years past. Anyway, go over to patreon.com/inktofilm. We have that. We have like merch, which has our logos on it, all kinds of cool bonuses and stuff on there, lots of different tiers. Check that out. See if it interests you. We'd love to have you on there.
And thank you to Serious Beat for the use of our intro and outro music.
All right, man. So next week we are going back to the book to finish out The Eye of the World. But clearly, I think it's going to end somewhere that the show is going to surpass, and already has in some ways.
Right.
So it'll be good. It'll be kind of cool, I think, to go do that and then come back and see where the show takes us. And then we'll have to decide. Season 2 comes around. How do we tackle it?
Right.
When do we read book 2? These are all questions we'll be coming to answers with hopefully soon. We've already talked about how we have a little bit of a weird release schedule with that, so look for that elsewhere. We'll talk about it online. Anyway, thank you all for listening, and until next time,
keep adapting.